Hey, what's up there? What's up? Happy Sunday. Good afternoon, Facebook. What's up, YouTube? How is everyone? I hope everyone is great. I hope everyone had a wonderful week. We just had spring break. It's over now, and we have our children home with us. We've had them home with us all week, and it's been very exciting. And I am ready to have them go back to school, definitely. Um, but it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. And so I am here today with, he's not a stranger at all. This is my husband, Thomas, aka the Brick House Chef.
What's up, peoples?
Yes, and so I have him um, broadcasting with me today because we're talking about a topic that I wanted to hear his input on it as well. And, you know, I thought that you guys might want to see someone else's face besides just mine. And it's always nice to have a guest on. So, the topic today is confidence. Is it a personality trait? And so, because I'm always coming to you from an early childhood standpoint, I'm speaking about it as it relates to children. So, Thomas actually doesn't even know why I thought of this topic, so I'll just brief him on it and actually include you guys in on it as well. So, we have, as you know, 3 children, right? We have 3 children who are ages 15, 12, and 4. And
I know that.
yeah, well, yeah, you knew that part exactly. See, you threw me off. But we have these 3 children, right? We have our 3 children, 2 boys, the oldest, and then the little one is a girl. And one of the things that we, or I know at least I frequently hear from people, they're talking about the confidence level of our children, right? So, I think that they vary. Like their level of confidence varies in different ways. And I think that's out of the 3 of them, one has more confidence in certain areas than others, right? And you can jump in however you see fit. But I just know that it's a very common thing that keeps happening that I keep hearing, right? Have you heard that from people that the kids are pretty confident?
I have heard that over the years.
Right. And I just thought that it was really interesting because it just makes me think about it. Like, is it something that we're doing, or is it something that because they come from the 2 of us, where I don't consider myself, I go back and forth with my level of confidence, and it depends on the area of that we're talking about. My confidence level, I'm working on it, right? I definitely think that our children are much more confident than I've ever been. Sometimes I look at them and I'm like, wow, I want to be like them when I grow up, right? In certain aspects of their confidence. But it was just like, it made me want to, talk about it a little bit. And where does this confidence come from? Where does a child's confidence come from? Is it something that they're born with? Is it something that happens? And I think that it's important to have that discussion because confidence is a very important thing for a person to have, right? So from trying new things to just stepping out and even asking for things or demanding things in life that you want, you have to have a level of confidence to be able to do these things. And so if you have to have it, right, even as an adult and even as a child, being out on the playground and wanting to turn to play basketball and stepping up to the people who are on the court to say, can I get my turn? You have to have a certain level of confidence to be able to do that. So to have confidence is important. Then that says to me that as a parent, I want to know, is it something that I do or not do, or is it something that's just born, that's innate, that the children have? And so I told Thomas to come on and talk with me about this because I have a little theory about it, right? I think that it's not a personality trait. I actually think that it's something that is built. like and not even built but maintained, because I actually think that children are born confident, and it's something that can be diminished or built
Okay.
or maintained. So talk about
when
it.
you first mentioned it, see, it's now what you're saying seems a little different because you said it was not something, it wasn't a personality trait.
Okay.
But if they are born with it, is it not a personality trait? See, my thought was that they were born with it, but it is something that can be diminished or be grown and built on.
Okay.
Now, originally, my disagreement with you was that you said that it was something that is not a personality trait.
You're right.
That is something that they're not born with.
So okay, you're right.
So now we agree. So now we can't argue in front of everybody.
We weren't going to argue anyway.
Debate is more like
we were not going to debate.
No?
I was going to state my point, and
for?
you were going to agree.
Oh, got it.
Okay. And so okay, so we're on the same page with it. So then I guess the question is, are children born with a certain level of confidence? Like what?
I think it varies. I think that people, because we're all born as children, I think people are definitely born with different levels of confidence because everybody has a different demeanor, everybody has different personalities. So, you know, you mentioned playing basketball, asking for your turn on the basketball court. I've seen kids on the basketball court who actually can play and have skills not be able to step up to the court and say, I'm going to play the next game, or can I have next game? And I've seen kids who don't have any skills, but they just love to try to play, step up excitedly and say, I want to play next. Who's playing next? Can I get the next game and get on the court and play before the kid who actually has basketball skills? And I think that takes a certain personality. That's something that some people are just born with, to want to go out and do the things that they aspire to do and attempt it. That is a level of confidence. It's almost like, I wouldn't necessarily say like a carefree spirit, but in a way, just having a carefree, outlook on things. They just want to try things that they want to do. It takes a level of confidence. I remember me as a kid, I wasn't always very confident. I would be very passive, like in the store or asking for.
That's hard to believe.
Well, it's hard to believe now, but when I went shopping, if I needed help to find something, I was so timid about things like that, even asking a store worker or something like, hey, where do I find this? I would rather just continue to search for as long as it took to try to find it on my own, not because I just wanted to find it on my own, but because I was too afraid sometimes to just go and say, I didn't have the confidence to say, hey, I need help. Can you just tell me where this is and this and that? Or if I went to somewhere for an appointment and I didn't know my way around the place, as a teenager, I didn't always want to go up to the front and say, well, how do I do this? And where do I go for this? And, what do I have to do? My confidence level was never there. And I did mention this when we briefly spoke about it, is that I feel like a lot of the maintenance comes through validation.
Okay.
And I believe that when you are growing up, that confidence is built through validation, because everybody feels like they can, all kids feel like they want to try things and they might be able to do it. I want to try to climb that. I think I can, but they're never absolutely sure. And some children won't try it if they're not sure, and some children will. It depends on the personality. But through validation, saying, hey, I think you can do it.
Okay.
Hey, maybe you're a little afraid, but if you just put your foot there and there like you were, thinking to do, you got the right idea. You validate them in a way that makes them build their confidence.
Okay.
But there's also a way you can say, yeah, it is dangerous. Maybe you shouldn't. And they may still feel like they can do it, but they may become more afraid, and it starts to bring their level of confidence down.
That's a good point. So then that leads to the point that, hey, Chris, that leads to the point of, as parents.
What's up, bro?
as parents, how big of a role do we play, and what are the things that we can do that you feel that you can do to maintain that or to build that, because if we, yes, the intersection of caution and validation, absolutely.
Right.
And so
That's a good point, because one thing when I was in the classroom, teaching early childhood, I don't know if everybody knew that I taught early childhood.
he's an early childhood teacher, absolutely.
One thing I always looked out for is what we call the helicopter parent. Who those are the parents who are hovering over their children the entire time they're in the classroom. They're watching their every move. They're trying to protect them every step of the way. They're guiding their social interactions. They're guiding their free play, you have to call it, when they're being guided. And it's difficult to build confidence in a child when there's no validation through the hovering. You cannot be validating your child's what they want to do and what they aspire to do if you are guiding it every step of the way. So, I felt like my job as an educator in those situations was to, get the parent to step back a little bit and trust their child.
Right.
And
allow them to fail.
And allow them to fail and get up or succeed in whatever it is they're doing. And sometimes it's not even a fail or succeed situation. And that's the hard part, is that when you're hovering over your child all the time, they become very dependent, and you can't build confidence through dependency.
Right. No, that's a good point. So with our kids, and it's interesting because we've been judged as parents, right? Been judged by many people, parents included, right? So it's no secret. Our parents included. That
like all parents,
right? Like all parents, right? So grandparents, they raise their children they raise us a certain way, and when you have the next generation, when you have your children, there is a tendency to do something different or do things differently, just based off of the knowledge that you've gathered, and so you decide to do something differently, right? Or the resources that you have access to, you do things differently. So we've been judged often that we are very we allow our children to be, I've heard, free spirits, too independent. Like I remember when our oldest son was probably a year old, and he was able to sit up and do his own thing by himself, and so we started to let him feed himself. And so he's probably not even a year old. As long as he was able to sit up and hold a spoon, we gave it to him. And I remember my brother actually saying, like, what are you doing? We put him on the floor. We had him with like newspaper on the floor. He was like, he's not a dog. I'm like, no, but this is something that to just keep the floor clean, but to allow him to explore and do it himself. And half the food would go in his mouth, and then some of it would not go in his mouth. And it is what it is. But
right.
Our thing was, this is how he's going to learn, right? He gets his coordination together, and he starts to realize the goal is to get this food in my mouth. I'm going to develop
one important thing that came first in that situation was that he showed that he wanted to try.
Right.
To feed himself.
Right.
So therein is the decision you have to make. When your child shows that they want to try something, right? Then you have to decide, are you going to let them try it? And how are you going to let them try it?
Right.
We validated him by saying, all right, well, we think you have what it takes to feed yourself. So let me give you the tools or whatever you need, to help you achieve what you want to try. And that builds independence, and that builds confidence.
Right.
So he was confident. He became even more confident because he was able to feed himself by hand and a little bit with the spoon and things like that.
Right, absolutely. And so, it's interesting though, the criticism that you get, and I know that I've been impacted by that criticism and that judgment. I don't know how you feel about that, but being told, oh, you're letting them do too much by themselves, and you're letting them be, the free spirit comment actually is a compliment to me, but I've heard it being said in a negative way, where you are allowing your children to just run their own show and things like that. And for me, I found myself explaining myself a lot and justifying why we did what we do, because we want them to figure out things for themselves. You know what I mean? It's always been, for me, it was always like, okay, I'm always right there, or we're always right there just in case it doesn't work out the way that they're envisioning it, or if they need a little scaffolding, right? Meaning just a little bit of assistance, not necessarily all the assistance, to get it done, or us doing it themselves, but I'm right there, but I want them to try this out. I want them to try it out. And funny, as I'm saying it, I just thought about something with our youngest daughter. One of the things that I do a lot, if I see her struggling with something, I'll ask her, do you need my help? Do you need me to do it for you? Do you need just a little bit of help? And so now she'll say, like, just a little bit. Like, don't do this part, but if you could just do this. And it allows her, and she's 4, and now she's able to articulate just the level of help that she needs, which is really good. And it helps me to gauge too, just that's good, Chris. That's good. Yes. Yeah, you got to speak on that. Just a little bit of help to do it. And I'll do it that much, and then I'll step back and she'll take it from there. But just her being able to be confident enough to articulate, only help me this much, and then back off, is really important, right? It's very important. She is able to articulate at the age of 4, here's what I need, and I know what I don't need, right? So do this much for me, please. That's important. What was that comment?
Right, just to touch base on that comment, and that's a great point. That's actually something that I think about and speak about often, because you're absolutely right. So we operate in a sense of over policing. So the comment was folks of color historically over police their children, and I do agree with that to a certain extent, because it was done out of fear. And to this very day, we do the same thing. We've been guilty of doing that ourselves. When we see certain things in the media that's happened to children of color in the street, and we have a teenage son and a preteen son, and they travel sometimes by themselves and have to walk down certain streets, we've had to check ourselves in how we handle them doing their everyday norm, not to create or cause a fear in our children, to keep them confident when they're going to school and going to the store and things like that. We've had to really check ourselves on that. So that's something that is very important for parents to be very aware of, in a sense of why are you over policing your children? It's one thing to just want to protect your child. It's another thing to be operating out of fear. And I think historically, people of color have often operated out of fear of their children being hurt or harmed in the street. And I think the same thing happens to this very day because of what we see that goes on in the streets and things like that. So yeah, you want to have a confident child, but at the same time, you have a generation of fearful people who are like, okay, if my child is too confident and too free-spirited, and he just feels like he can, exercise by jogging around the neighborhood in his sweatsuit with his hood on, do I have to be worried for him? So what kind of rules am I going to set up for him? What am I going to say to my child? Is it going to affect his confidence? Is it going to affect his independence? So I think that's a great point, because we often do that, and we try really hard not to do that. But like I said, we have had to check ourselves on several occasions, because we have a child the same age as a lot of kids who, unfortunately have been, killed for police violence, and even violence with, other teenagers and things like that. So it's always something to keep in mind.
What's so interesting though, you say that with people of color, because I'm also thinking about the fact that we are raising a little black girl. And it's interesting because there's been a stereotype that has been with women of color about being too sassy, too much, too, all of this, like, right? That they get that perception of that. Right. And so there's a tendency to scale yourself back as a black woman because you don't want to come off being, you know, all of the stereotypes that they put black women into, right? Those types of boxes that they put black women into. And so with having a confident daughter, she has come off in ways where she has to be pulled back a little bit.
Or you feel like she
Or
has
I
to be
feel-
pulled back.
But even what you said to me recently, because she, you know, we have to teach her how to say things respectfully. And
Right.
that's something that is, you know, we have to do as teaching them, period, right? As teaching them, period, we have to teach our children how to say things respectfully.
Right.
But unfortunately,
With our daughter, that's my primary concern, is when she's speaking to myself, or if she's speaking to you,
right,
that she's doing it respectfully.
right,
And that's just something that comes with time and with growth. She's 4 years old, she's still learning, but I would never want to take her sassiness away.
or
You know,
but is it even? And see, we talked about that word with sassiness, right? Because I actually don't like the word sassy because of what's attached to it as a black woman. You know, I feel like someone calling me sassy when I'm actually just speaking, you know, being very clear on what I want, right? I am like, that's not sass.
Well, historically, things are just given different names when it comes to us as a people, when we do things versus when other people do things or say things a certain way. And we are very soulful people. We
Right.
speak a certain way, we move a certain way, we have a certain energy about us. And, you know, I would never want to take, I mean, I look at my daughter and I'm like, she's 4. My wife hasn't taught her these moves. I haven't taught her these moves, but she's moving and she's doing all this. When she's talking to her brothers and she got the finger and the eye roll, neck roll, the whole thing. And I'm like, But it's just there.
Right.
You know, it's just there. It's built in. It's hardwired. And do I want to muffle that? Do I want to suffocate that? Not at all. You know, because she's confident enough to express herself the way she feels like she should be able to. And if we keep guiding her to be respectful with morals and things like that, then she will learn how to navigate on her own. She will learn when to be a certain way, when to speak a certain way, and when not to. But should she feel like she cannot be herself? No. Should she not be able to be sassy when she feels like being sassy? No, because there is a time and a place for everything. But I think that comes with just learning and guiding them and giving them, you know, the timing and things like that. It's all about the proper parenting, you know, and it's different for everybody. But for me, I really believe that as long as we're giving them a little guidance and we're teaching them respect, kindness, and things like that, they're going consideration. They're going to learn how to navigate themselves accordingly, depending on who they're interacting with, depending on their social setting. I know it worked. You know, it worked for me.
In what aspect? What do you mean?
I wasn't really guided as much as far as being myself. When I spoke my mind and things like that, my grandmother, she constantly just reminded me to be mindful, to be mindful of who I'm speaking to be mindful if I'm around elders. Remember to be respectful. So she never told me don't speak, you know, or don't say that, or you know, or shut me down in a way that I felt like I just had to keep everything inside, or I couldn't be myself, or you know, I didn't want to speak, because sometimes our children don't even want to speak anymore to us or around us, you know.
You're saying our as in?
No, as in general, not our.
I was going to say, because our children feel quite confident
right.
They feel confident to say stuff to us.
She, you know, with her, it was just remember to be respectful, and I always, because of that, I always felt confident in speaking my mind. You know, to this day, if I feel like there's been an injustice or something, you know, I have no problem speaking up right away and speaking my mind, because all I have to remember is to try not to offend anybody.
Right.
Is to be respectful and things like that. And I think if we just instill these things, these morals, then our children, as they grow up, they will learn how to navigate themselves through
based
their
off of
based
based
on
off of the where they are, the
absolutely,
right,
and they
right, the
can be
context.
themselves. They can have their own personalities. They can be confident and just remember these certain things that that we teach them.
Right. So it's interesting, and still in the same, in the same vein, we recently had a family member come over and hang out with our son. He's 16, maybe
What's
just
up, Ty?
17. And he spent the night with us for about 4 days. He was here with our son, and we found out that he wanted something, right? Like he needed something. He needed something with his like laundry done. Now we have a washer and dryer in the house and everything, but he never came to us and he never said anything. And I thought about that, and knowing.
Well, he mentioned that his clothes. So he was trying to carry something outdoors, and it stained up his clothes.
Right.
And I told him, go ahead. Oh, you can wash it. The problem is he didn't know how to use the washer and dryer.
Right.
And he didn't have the confidence to come to us.
So he never said anything.
So he never said anything.
Right. And I thought about that because I've heard about him in certain other situations where there was something he was supposed to speak up for or say because he needed something and he didn't. And I thought about our son in comparison, who he will ask for some of the most what appears to me as outlandish, right? Like something where I'm just like, no, you cannot have that. And he'll just go, oh, okay. But he tries, right? He'll try it. He's like, hey, listen, you can only tell me no. All right, it was a no, I'll walk away, And I thought about how much coaching I had to receive as an adult from other peers of mine to just ask certain questions. Because I would say, oh, I don't want to ask, I'm afraid, what if they say, what if? And I've had some of my people in my corner say, the most they could do is say no, And I would say like, oh, okay, like, and still go timidly before whoever it is I have to speak to, because I'm like.
Up until very recently, we had these same conversations. It's okay. It happens. I mean, I've gone through it in life and business, and learning through the catering. And when you're doing things, everything's a learning process. So you don't walk into everything super confident. But I try to be as confident as possible. Sometimes you can't ask for certain things if you don't know. But if you know and you have the knowledge, then comes the confidence. You need the confidence to, thank you, Ty. You need the confidence to then ask for the things that you deserve or you need. And that's where, people even in adulthood, they can't ask for the money at work, a salary that they know that they deserve.
Right.
And
our son, he asked for things that, what did he ask you for? He asked for like your headphones, like right out your ear while you're using them. Can I get those?
Can I use your headphones that you're using right now?
And
I'm like, no. He's like, okay, all right, thanks. But you know what? I don't turn around and say, why would you ask me for my headphones right out my ears, and make him feel like it's a dumb question or he shouldn't be asking, because I want him to be confident enough to walk up and ask for something that he may need. Now, I've also told him about, like, okay, certain things you can do with us, certain things you can't. So now, will he go out and ask? Exactly, and that's a fact. You're never going to get what you deserve, right? And that's why
you get what you negotiate.
And that's why the confidence is key. And I never want, and I tell my kids all the time, the last thing I want is for you to go out and put your heart and your sweat and your effort into something and you don't reap from it. You don't ever want to sell yourself short. I've done it myself in the past, and I told myself I'm never selling myself short again.
Right.
And I tell Serene the same thing. You cannot sell yourself short. Actually, Chris, this is a conversation that we had, and because we're very similar in the sense that we love the people, we're all about the community work, and if in my heart, if I could do what I could do for everyone for free, I would. But there was a saying that stuck with me that someone I believe mentioned to you that, was we can't have broke visionaries. You can't, we can't. It's a fact. You cannot have a broke visionary. I feel like I'm a visionary, so is Serene, as well as other peers of ours.
And our children.
And our
Our
children.
children. I mean, even at this age,
also,
they
even
show
at this
it.
age. And we want visionaries, and we want people to, strive to achieve what they're dreaming to achieve. But you can't be broke in this society and do it.
And you can't,
and you have to have confidence in order to get what you need to achieve your goals.
All right.
And that's something that has to be built from the ground up, from when our boys are little. They're getting bigger now, but it starts from very, very young.
I think honestly, and this is, to wrap this up actually, we can't as parents, right? We cannot
Facts.
We cannot have our young children be all about, we raise them so authoritatively where we're like, don't do this, don't do that, helicoptering them, policing them, right? We can't just be, so authoritative with them and then turn around and when they get older say, speak up, learn to do this. You gotta say this. You gotta step to this. You gotta be able to do this. Be strong. Be whatever. Be confident. If you didn't raise them where you allow them to have a voice, where you allow them to say, no, I actually don't like that. Hey, I don't eat that, right? Down to even that. I don't eat that, right? How many times have parents said, and we were even raised with it, we talked about this before, I don't care that you don't eat this. You gotta eat this.
Right.
No, with us, our children, we tell them, this is what we have. You could see, like, especially now that they're old enough to cook things for themselves, the older children, the older two, we're like, all right, well, if you don't like this, see what you can do for yourself, right? There's the fridge, there's the pantry, there's the cabinet. See what you can do. We're not going to go, no, it doesn't matter that you don't eat this. This is what you're going to do. Because even something that small says, hey, you don't like what's set before you, it empowers you to do something else, then about it, right? It doesn't mean that I'm going to run and start hooking something else up for you, right? That's not what's going to happen.
Right.
But listen, this is your home. Go navigate and figure out what you want to do about it then, right? Even down to that kind of thing. And so we can't, have them work with them in a certain way from 0 to 17, 18. And then when they have to start going out there and doing interviews and getting jobs, tell them all of a sudden, be confident, speak up, speak with your chest.
Right.
We can't do that.
And that leads into like my little closing statement about it, because this is directly directed straight to our people, right, to our community, because this is something I've seen growing up, something I still see. You cannot beat your children down and build them up at the same time.
Right. Mm. Right.
You cannot beat your children down and build them up at the same time. You cannot cuss them out and call them names and tell them don't be a punk and things like that, and then send them out to be confident and to hold their head up high to ask for what they want and to try to get what they need.
Mm. That's good. Yep.
So the two don't go hand in hand. So we have to remember, how are we talking to our children? How are we building their confidence? We can't tear them down in order to build them up.
Right. Especially if, back to the beginning of this, what we said, if they come out with a certain level of confidence already. Right, then that means that we have to be very careful what we do.
It's nothing more
day
sad.
one.
Yeah, it's nothing more sad than to see a child that's their confidence is already so broken at such a young age. Mm. So just remember that we can't beat them down and build them up at the same time.
Absolutely. So, in conclusion, right? Is it a personality trait?
What do you guys think? Is a personality
Ty said it's an inner emotion that exudes outward. I think that's perfectly put, right?
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely something that every child is born with to a certain extent. We're all born with a certain level of confidence, some more than others, but it is something that can be built on, that can be built up, or that can be broken. You can be the most confident child, but you can be broken if you're not raised up right.
Right, or raised up where it encourages that
Right.
to continue.
Right,
Yeah.
raised up in a way that it encourages the confidence and builds it up.
Absolutely.
You know, some people, they're
Right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I wasn't even familiar with that quote, but listen, it's what I've seen in my experience. It's so difficult. You come across these children that are broken, and you're like, man, you know, you just need so much more time with those kids, so much more time, and we don't have enough people and enough educators nowadays in our village to help repair all of these children that are being broken at such young ages.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important for us to, you know, as a people, come together and start to build our children up from day one. It's all about building.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right now. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, our special guest.
Thank you, Todd,
Visitors,
for
thank
joining.
you so much.
Maine, Sharice.
Thank you so much,
My
love.
bro, Chris.
Yes, so much love. Thank you so much. But all right then, and thank you.
You're welcome.